I was watching a story this morning on the local Fox channel in the Tampa Bay area, and they were talking about how Canadians were on a rampage selling their properties in Florida, actually everywhere across the country, which is true. However, the excuse that they used for the reasoning of selling these properties was the dislike of America and America's politics. They turned it into politics. Well, I had already researched this story that I was planning on talking about. And, I had already known pretty much what was going on because I'm in commercial insurance and I understand how a lot of this stuff works. And also being in Florida, you see the changes that are happening, especially with condos related to fees and special assessments and everything else. And the reality is that people across the board, Native Americans and foreign investors or buyers, are selling their homes because in a lot of these cases, and in fact, I'd probably nearly all of these cases, these are second or third homes. And it's getting prohibitively expensive for these people to hold on to these homes. It's just they can't justify the expenses anymore, especially with the condos. And some of these stories you're hearing, it's insane. Some HOA fees are $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Now, I would imagine a lot of these condos are probably more luxury condos and more expensive, of course. But I've personally seen special assessments for condos that are probably under 2,000 square feet or so for several $1,000s, $8,000 a pop, and happening multiple times a year. And a lot of this has to do with, in the Florida, Tampa Bay area, you've had the hurricanes that caused damage to these condominiums. You have the Surfside collapse. And if you're unaware of that, in 2021, there's a condo in, I believe it was the Miami area that had collapsed because the association wasn't keeping up with maintenance. And so what that's caused is this ripple effect across Florida to have these inspections and make sure that these condos are up to code. And of course, that costs money. So you have a lot of people that are on fixed incomes that, are not going to be able to handle these costs or have not been able to handle these costs, and they are selling. So there are a lot of sales that have been going on already. And to say that Canadian owners are selling because of politics is disingenuous at best. So, you're seeing now, because of homes and condos selling, there's in areas like this, the Pinellas County area, 8% per year over year, and some condos down to 20 to 50%. And this is just sort of the beginning. I think it's going to get worse from that point. And inventory, there's a huge inventory surge, 10 months of supply in Florida. And that's just condo inventory, by the way. And again, many investors are selling because I can't afford. And I think a lot of these people have actually owned these properties in cash. But like I've always talked about before, when you have homeowners associations and you have governments, they treat your money as if it doesn't mean anything. So for them, it's no problem just to keep increasing fees and things to cover costs. Meanwhile, they have no care in the world that it dramatically affects your life. You can't afford food. Another story that I'm going to be doing, people are borrowing money to get groceries. But local governments have no problem continuing to increase tax amounts on the same people that are struggling to put food on the table. And then these properties too, a lot of them are not just second and third homes, but they're also being rented when they're not there or just in a rental pool period. They're not able to cover their costs and make any sort of profit anymore because of the continued increase in taxes, the continued increase in HOA fees, insurance, especially. That's another cost that is beyond out of control. And this impact of the Surfside collapse, etc. So you're seeing a huge downturn right now that is also not being covered by the mainstream media. Again, when you have these things that aren't purposefully being ignored, purposefully being buried because it makes a particular administration look bad, this is going to have a much, much worse effect because others aren't really prepared for it, but they're sort of suffering in silence. And then we're going to have FHA loans. The Trump administration is going to put an end to these loss mitigation options. There are people who are claiming that they had a hardship, so on their FHA loan they didn't have to pay certain fees. I think it was taxes or interest in those particular types of loans. That's going to come to an end. So you're going to see a mass of foreclosures, which in turn is going to bring a mass of property onto the market. And we're also seeing, because of the hurricane that happened, people are still recovering from that. And in Florida, there's a huge issue with people enrolling in school. So a lot of people are exiting Florida. They came here during the COVID deal and are moving out because they realize it's not the greatest place in the world to raise a family. So they are returning back to where they came from because they feel that it's a better place for them to live. So we are seeing in front of our eyes a huge economic downturn. The housing market, and this is not just Florida, this is happening in Vegas, Phoenix, Orlando, Detroit, a lot of places across the entire country that are seeing this. So it's not just a Florida issue. Florida, I think, just like in a lot of cases, seems to be ground zero for a lot of these things. Let me know what you have to say about this. Are you a condo owner? Are you seeing insane prices? And we have a lot of Canadian viewers. I'd like to hear from you. Is it politics, or is it just, people can't afford to continue to pay these outrageous fees to maintain these properties? It's just not, justified anymore. Let me know what you have to say. I really do want to hear. So maybe I've got it all wrong, and maybe it is just simply politics. I find it hard to believe that that's the case, but I would love to hear from you. So I appreciate you watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Also, be sure to click the like button. And check out the links in our description. There's a lot of links there that you can help support the show, help support our work. If you do appreciate the work and you get value out of it and you learn something. See you in the next video.